Welcome friends to another r/EntitledParents video. Today we've got a lot of great stories, and our first story is from Cynical Pancake. Entitled Mother outruns autistic toddler to the swings for lunch. Today was hot by UK standards, and my daughter adores the park. Only perk of the heat in my opinion is she gets to play out more. I'll start by saying she's 3 years old and is autistic. She can't talk or follow instructions, but I love encouraging her to do things outside, and she loves swings. School's back, so parks aren't too busy during the day. Perfect. She knew we were going, and she ran from the entrance to the swings, but it was surprisingly a bit busy. Swings are occupied, so I explained to her that other kids are on the swings, she needs to wait. She's not very patient at all and doesn't understand most things. She just knows swings are awesome. There's only 2 swings, but nobody else is waiting, so we wait. Queue several minutes, and she's getting very frustrated now and begins to cry. But that's okay. The second swing frees up. Hooray, okay. Let's go swing, right? Nah. That mom that was pushing her kid on swing 1, let's call her Entitled Mother 1, snatches the swing and glares at my daughter, then at me, before passing it over to someone who arrived much later than me, let's call her Entitled Mother 2. Now I know swings are public, but this threw me a bit. Queues are secret in Britain. Either way, I explained to my little girl that she has to wait again. By now, she's in tears all over. It's sad, but she doesn't understand and ultimately has to learn to be patient, so we wait. Entitled Mother 1 and 2 then stop swinging to slowly feed their children lunch while they're sat in the swings. They keep looking at my daughter, gossiping and giggling. I'm usually not paranoid, but the amount they turned around to look at us both made me conscious we were a talking point. I try to distract my girl dozens of ways, but her autism is very intense and she wouldn't take any interest. She knows she isn't leaving without a swing or two. I don't pretend it's a condition that means she has any right over other children in a public space, I should clarify, hence waiting and teaching. However, it is very visible and would have been apparent to anyone that she was autistic, not just bratty and spoiled. She twitches, stims, speaks only in hums, clicks, and shrieks, and absolutely can't sit still. I love that for her. So I try and have patience for both of us and help her redirect. So it hurts to feel like these entitled mothers were testing a child who just wanted to play. I've never seen anyone feed a child that slow, let alone feed 2 children on swings? Am I missing a hack? By the time their toddlers finish their entire lunches, don't even swing, thank God, poor bellies, they move on. Entitled Mother 2 sneers at me as I tell my girl she can play now, only to say, "Oh, were you waiting? Pity." They then laugh and walk off. It was bizarre. Sadly, my daughter was too worked up at that point to enjoy the park, but we had a lovely picnic after I settled her. I know it's not the most entitled or shocking thing happening by far, but it was just exhausting to be around people like that, and I needed to just let off some steam. Personally, I just can't imagine having that level of hatred inside you. Like, I just don't understand the concept of feeling you're so much better than somebody, especially a toddler, or judging a toddler for that matter. If you were in this situation, would you want to give those entitled mothers a piece of your mind and tell them off? Or do you think being polite, silent, and just waiting it out was the right thing to do? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is from DocDark12. Entitled Mother makes a scene in the hospital. Hey everybody, I'll tell you all a story that happened to me a few days ago. So a few days ago, around 5 in the evening, we get a call about that code black that was announced in the hospital where I work. For those who have no idea about it, it means that a mass casualty had occurred and patients were being sent our way. 2 buses had collided with each other and some patients were mildly injured, but some of them had serious injuries. Here comes the entitled mother. She had brought her son to the hospital to consult into emergency because her son was having minor stomach aches and was refusing to eat food. I personally went to her and told her that a large number of patients are coming here as they have trauma, and we'll first help them so there's no single fatality due to the accident, and we asked her to either wait in the hall or go to the Department of Medicine and someone would attend them there. She started to make a fuss about how we are refusing to do our duty and how we're just there to trouble the patients. At the same time, the first 2 ambulances have arrived, and both the patients were injured badly. On seeing that, the security guards had to clear the entrance to the emergency room and asked her to move aside. When she refused to do so, he called a female guard and they pushed them aside. She started to scream like a banshee that we'd assaulted her and her son, and now she's going to call police and file charges against her for harassment. We ignore her shouting and screaming, and we took the patients inside and gave their wounds enough support to stop bleeding enough so they could be taken into the surgery room to locate the wounds and stop the bleeding and check for any further damage. She came back into the ER with her son, and of course we were there and there was blood around the floor. She again started to shout that we were going to give them infections and make them sick. We again had to ask the guards to escort her out, and the ambulances with other less injured patients had started to come in. We were tending to those patients when she tried to stop the entry of a patient who was not very injured but needed full examination. She said that this patient's fine and her precious baby needs treatment first. Remember, we had already told her to go to the other department. She didn't even want to walk a small distance to have her baby evaluated and treated. This time, she actually called the police and tried to pester us again. One of my fellow doctors attempted to talk to the police and told them about the whole scenario. They already knew that we were treating the patients and what the woman had told them, that we refused to take in any patients and were making them wait outside. At the end, the policeman took her outside and gave her a nice earful of some well-deserved strong words, slapped her with a hefty fine, and then she got banned from the hospital for 2 weeks. Later, we did treat her son. It all turned out to be a sham. All the problem was that the child didn't get food that they demanded, so we made a fuss about it. On the brighter side, all of the patients that had come to the hospital were all completely treated, and today was the day when the last patient was discharged from the wards. They're all doing perfectly fine. Some people really have the audacity to be such idiots in the scenarios of emergency for nothing but attention and drama. I'm actually curious, is what the entitled mother did here a chargeable offense? If they're in this hospital waiting room and they try to block the entrance when somebody that desperately needs real intervention medically is getting carted in, could that be almost like attempted murder in a way? I'm kind of curious how that breaks down. If anybody knows anything, let me know. Our next story is from Twirly Shirley 8. Swimming pools seem to attract entitled parents. We have an apartment on one side of our house that we rent out. Tenant is a great guy. Easygoing, quiet, pays his rent on time, etc. We have a pool on the one side of our property that he's allowed to use. In his lease agreement, it states that he's allowed to use it, but his guests are not. The reasoning behind this is a liability issue. I don't want my home liability insurance premiums to skyrocket if anything happens. A few months ago, he had a coworker pitch up who didn't ask and just assumed that he could bring his young daughter with to swim. Once the guy and his kid arrived, my tenant quickly came to ask for permission for the girl to swim. I told him that it was a liability issue and, unfortunately, I couldn't allow it, especially since the kid was around 6 years old and wouldn't even be able to stand in the shallow end. This entitled dad insisted on speaking with me and then tried to guilt me into letting his daughter swim because he'd already promised his daughter that she could swim. When I wouldn't give in, he called me a witch. And then, as with all entitled parents, this dude turned to his daughter and told her the mean lady wouldn't let her swim and that they had to go home. The kid started crying and whining, "But you promised." "Sorry, kid, I'm not required to keep the promises your dad makes." My tenant was very apologetic. He didn't even know the guy all that well. The guy just pitched up and demanded that his kid be allowed to swim. Considering the reaction of this entitled dad being told no, their kid couldn't swim, imagine who they would first turn to blame if anything happened to their kid. Certainly wouldn't be the entitled dad that brought them there and promised them they could swim. Oh no, they wouldn't be at fault. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. Our next story is from MemeXK9, entitled "Parent Thinks I Broke Her Kid's Nose." So today, I had my first encounter with an entitled parent. So I was roller skating at a roller rink I go to every day, so sometimes I'm mistaken for a worker, even though I'm only 14. I was talking with one of the workers and they went to do something else, so I head to my table to put my drink down, but a little girl comes out of nowhere and hits her nose on the table behind me. But I moved out of the way so I didn't drop my drink. I said sorry to the grandmom and the girl. The girl's nose started bleeding and would not stop bleeding. At this point, I'm just sitting down. And for the rest of that session, nothing happens. I saw them leave, so I thought it was fine. Later one day, while I'm waiting for the next session to start, I'm sitting in the lobby with the worker and her younger sister. and next thing you know, the girl that had hit her nose is back and walks in with the entitled parent. The entitled parent says, "Is that the man who pushed you?" The kid says, "Yes, that's him." They say, "Why'd you push my kid? What's your name? Where's your manager?" I say, "I didn't push your kid, but my name is so-and-so." The entitled parent says, "Bullcrap, you didn't. You broke her nose. I want your manager now." At this point, I'm confused and looking for the worker for the help. The entitled parent ends up yelling at the managers that were in there. She asked for my last name, and the managers had to tell her I'm a minor and don't have to, so she storms off pissed. Later on, I got to see the camera footage of what happened, and I was in the right. The little girl was in the wrong, and now I have to write a statement and maybe speak about it in front of the entitled parent. I might also have to go to court about this if the entitled parent wants to drag it on. I would just say make sure the manager or whoever pulled up that video, make sure they back it up. Make sure they have that copy. If you can get emailed a copy or whatever, do whatever you can to back up that evidence because honestly, beyond that, you're golden. It would suck if it gets dragged on, but the evidence is clear and concise that you're not at fault. This next story is from Logical Shockwave. My racist stepmother thinks she's 100% English. I, 25, non-binary, have an entitled and outright abusive stepmother, 61-year-old female, who actually believes she's 100% English. I wish I was joking, but she's the classic racist village Karen who drinks too much pink gin, gets her hair dyed constantly to hide the gray hair coming in, and absolutely has to know all the gossip and everyone's business, to the point where she constantly asks me what's coming in the mail for me and invaded my room on the regular. Her voice is the god-awful English Northwest country twang. If you know, you know. She's particularly nasty to me, having gaslit, manipulated, and at one point instigated an ending things attempt, as well as gotten me kicked out for a week. All for getting an undercut like I've always wanted. For the last bit, the rest is just normal for her. My dad is barely any better, and is a raging sexist, racist, and has severe anger management issues that culminate in me most often being the victim. He used to scream at 9-year-old me for being bad at maths, thinking it would make me do better. To this day, he still thinks it was a good idea. Spoiler alert, it wasn't because I had undiagnosed ADHD, which, surprise, surprise, is somewhat common, at least from my research, correct me if I'm wrong please, in families that have autism in their genetics. My younger brother and other connected relatives have this quite severely. To the point though, because my dad is a racist, she also shares her openly racist ideals. For instance, they both hate black people and constantly use the one word white people should never say. They criticize the government saying immigrants shouldn't be allowed into the country, constantly crap on the very restaurants they buy their beloved Indian and Chinese takeout from. Seriously, if you hate them so much, why claim you love the food so much? And absolutely despise anyone that isn't the same race as them. So you can imagine my mistake by implying that somewhere down the line, some of their family probably wasn't English, because the UK is made up of a lot of people who sailed over to settle throughout history. The absolute outrage on her face, it was only matched by the indignant, "No, because I'm 100% English. There aren't any foreigners in my family." Sure, buddy, sure. I tell her to shut the freak up whenever possible about this or call her out about any racist BS. And because of this, she thinks I have an attitude. News just in, guys. Being an advocate for BLM, I attended many a protest because it's the right thing to do, and decent treatment of fellow human beings means I have an attitude. There is a positive to all this though, and I didn't want to post my experiences until I had one because I'm a firm believer in positivity breeding more of it. I attended a fine art university in the UK for 3 years and chose to live in the dorms as much as possible. I went no contact as much as I was able, and while some Christmases were absolutely awful, being completely alone while I knew my family was feasting, I got to do it as my own identity. I came out to my dad about being non-binary over the phone. He accepted it, but barely. Cut and dyed my hair white as I always wanted. He specifically said I could do that when I wasn't under his roof. Marked that off as a mini malicious compliance. I got to attend a pride parade for the first time and gain new friends. Found out that I actually do love pink. I just hate it when it's forced on me in too tight shirts with tacky slogans. And for the grand finale, as of the 17th of June 2022, I got notice that I can graduate and my application to move into a flat with my best friend has been approved. I'm 25, and despite having lived for 3 years away from home, I never felt free until this very moment. I don't have to go home anymore, ever again. No more abuse or walking on eggshells, worrying that even the slightest noise will set my parents off into an argument. I have barely any belongings besides my PC and some clothes, a couple of things to help my dorm life, and I'm poor as heck. But you know, I'll take that any day over being a punching bag to my parents. I finally move in July 8th. Anybody that's ended up in situations even remotely approaching ones like OP's, I feel great for them when they can get out of there and just find their own independence and distance from people that honestly have made their lives from start to where they are right now way harder than it ever had to be. Our next story is from Razaquet, entitled Mother Doesn't Believe Theater Techs Exist. Our school theater was having what we called Spotlight, where juniors and seniors would write one-act plays and then direct them. I signed up to be part of the tech crew and got lights lead. I was super excited to have the lead in lights, even though there's only 3 of us in lights total. I got to run the lights live, meaning we didn't program the lights during the show. And when the opening night came, everything went great. When the show finished, I brought up the lights and then joined the stream of people exiting the theater. I talked with the actors and other techies, and one of my friends gave me and all the other techies a rose. Then I began to go backstage to congratulate any actors or techies back there and to help clean up. There's a set of double doors that lead to the theater and band hallway, and that's the way to get to the back of the stage. I reach the doors when I hear a "hey." I didn't turn around because I didn't think anyone's talking to me. Then I feel a hand on my arm. "That's for actors only," says a disgruntled looking lady. We'll call her Karen. I turn and see Karen and a kid standing next to her. Me, confused, said, "What?" Karen, pointing to the large sign on the door that says cast and crew only. "It says cast only." Me, thinking I understood, said, "Oh, I am part of the crew." Karen also sees the rose I'm holding and says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you an actor? I don't recognize you." I say, "No, I'm part of the tech crew. I ran lights for the show." She says, "So you're an electrician?" I say, "No, I controlled the lights for the show and helped backstage." She says, "Stop lying. I know you're trying to get backstage." The kid says, "Mom." I say, "What? No, I technically work here." She says, "Stop making things up." Me, very confused, said, "I'm not." She says, "Oh yeah, if you work here, then what do you do then?" I say, "I told you. I ran the lights for the show." She says, "Aha, I knew you were lying. Your techs don't exist." I say, "Then how do you think the actors get props? How they move the sets on and off, control mics, sound, and lights?" The Karen stops for a second. She's clearly stumped. Then she seems to come to a conclusion in her head. "They move them on when they walk on stage. Now will you stop lying?" I say, "Look lady, I don't know what else to say. I'm a theater tech, I work here." Karen says, "Just stop lying." She waves out to a stage manager who's nearby. "You over here." Our stage manager walks over and calmly asks, "Is there a problem?" Karen says, "This kid is trying to get backstage." The manager says, "That's OP, they work here." Karen says, "What?" The manager says, "OP, what happened here?" I say, "She doesn't believe that us techies exist and won't let me backstage." The manager, turning to the Karen, said, "Why won't you let OP backstage? And how do you think anything gets done backstage?" Karen, stuttering and spluttering, said, "I told you the actors do it. There's no such thing as a theater technician." The manager said, "Ma'am, the techs basically run the whole show." She says, "You all just hate actors. You're trying to steal the show." Me and the manager said, "What?" The manager says, "Look lady, I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you keep being disrespectful to my techs." The Karen huffs and stalks away with the kid looking embarrassed behind her, muttering to herself. Our manager shrugs and we go about the rest of the night. And the kid later apologized for his mom. We never saw Karen again. You gotta just love when somebody who has no idea what's actually going on behind the scenes inserts themselves as some kind of authority over what is and isn't okay. God forbid we needed a protector of that cast and crew door and Karen was going to be the one to do it. Our next story is from Gotcha Ninja. My entitled mother ruins niece's first birthday. Hello all, this is my first of many entitled parent stories about my own mother. This is a story that happened on Sunday the 19th of June 2022, and it's one of dozens of stories. Last Friday, as of writing this post, I woke up late and my entitled mother was not bothered enough to wake me up, despite being awake since 5 a.m. and letting me sleep until 8 a.m. The night before, I specifically told her to wake me up at 6 a.m. so I could get dressed, eat breakfast, and put on my suit for the interview. I'm going to work at a John Lewis for the work experience. I'm walking to school and my brother calls me. Ring ring, I say, "Hey brother." He says, "Hey little bro, how are you?" I say, "Good, how's your girlfriend and daughter?" He says, "They're good, and I actually wanted to talk to you about something. Can you come to my daughter's party on Saturday? It's a really special day and I want you to help me set it up early in the morning." I say, "Sure, should I tell entitled mother?" Immediately cuts me off. He says, "No." I say, "Okay, I'll keep that in mind. How about entitled grandma?" He says, "Sure, but you need to make her promise that she doesn't tell entitled mother. Got it?" I say, "Okay, see you on Friday." Saturday comes around and I'm woken up with the worst sound any teenage boy could wake up to. Entitled mother says, "OP, get up and get dressed. We're going shopping with entitled grandma." I say, "Oh crap, she told her." We go to a clothing store nearby and I ask entitled mother why we went there. Entitled mother says, "Oh, to buy your niece a gift." I say, "Did entitled grandma tell you?" She says, "No, your sister did." After about 5 minutes, I go on the phone telling brother the news and I see my mom with an adult-sized dress for his daughter. I say, "Entitled mother, isn't that too big for her?" She says, "No, it'll be fine. After all, your father's paying for this." I say, "Okay then." We check out and we go home for the day. Then comes Sunday, I wake up around 5 to try and sneak to brother's house to set up the party. And by the time I get dressed, say goodbye to my PC, and leave, I get greeted with a grunt from entitled mother. "Where do you think you're going?" I say, to brother's house." She says, "How dare you lie to me? We aren't meant to be there until 3. Your grandma said so." I say, "I'm sorry, he likes me more than you. I'm going there like he asked me." She says, "Get back here, young man, or else." I say, "Or else what? If you break my PC, that's over 1,000 British pounds property damage. If you take anything of mine, I'll report it as theft, and everything in my possession is owned by either me or dad. Unless I see that dad gave you permission to touch my stuff, I will not let you touch anything." Entitled mother says, and I slam the door. I get to brother's house and help set up. Then at 3, all heck breaks loose. Everyone but entitled mother and entitled grandma are at the party, and we start opening his daughter's gifts. She starts babbling and laughing with the new toys she got, including a toy I bought for her. It was a talking and singing Barney plushie. Then the entitled mother and entitled grandma arrive. They start shoving people out of the way and put a present in the pile. We open it next, and then it all clicked. Entitled mother pretended to get a dress for brother's daughter, but got it for herself. She says, "Oh, what a shame, it's not her size." "Oh well, I spent good money on it, so I'll just take it back now." I say, "Really? And you're sure you didn't just buy that for yourself just so you could say you tried?" Brother says, "Entitled mother, how could you? She's 1 year old and you're 55. How would you mess up the sizes that badly?" Entitled mother says, "Don't yell at me. I said I got it for her, not I say, "You just said that you would take it back. And don't pull oh, me and OP got that purple dragon toy for her because I bought it with my own money." Brother's girlfriend says, "Everybody stop. Entitled mother, I think you should stay, but if you make one more mistake, you're out of here." Brother says, "So just sit there and watch my daughter while we go get the cake." Entitled mother huffs and says, "Fine, I'll just sit here." Flash forward a couple of minutes and out comes the cake. It was a beautiful cake with rainbow icing and vanilla flavoring. Entitled mother says, "Wait, why was it vanilla and not chocolate?" Brother's girlfriend says, "Oh, that's because sister and sister's fiance are allergic to..." Entitled mother says, "I don't care. I want it to be chocolate." I say, "Just calm down, entitled mother. You're going to scare brother's daughter." She says, "I don't care if I scare her. I want chocolate cake." Brother says, "Look, entitled mother, I'll get you chocolate cake soon." Crash. We look over and see that entitled mother had flipped the cake over and threw it to the floor. Now this is where everything worsens. Brother says, "Entitled mother, get out." She says, "But..." Me and brother say, "No buts and just get out." Entitled mother runs off crying and entitled grandma follows her outside. I say sorry, brother, about everything. I couldn't stop her. Brother says it's okay, it was out of your hands. So the party was disbanded, and now this was the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm going to move out as soon as possible, and I'm going to go no contact with her. I need help on what to do for the next 3 years. I'm 15 and have no clue what to do. Being 15, I feel for OP because I think that's pretty tricky. I think maybe the one thing you could try is finding if you could stay with your brother or maybe your sister. It might be quite a burden for them, but they might prefer it considering they know how entitled mother is. And our final story of the day is from Diamond the Wolf. Entitled mother refuses to pay damages after her son breaks a toilet seat at school. This story took place around 2 years ago at my old school. I recently remembered it after I found an article talking about the incident. For context, at this time, the boys' bathroom in our schools weren't anchored correctly to the wall, so our principal put signs on them to show that they were out of order. This boy, we'll call him D, either didn't see the sign or overlooked it and stood up on the toilet seat, causing it to break. This is where our entitled parent, D's mom, comes in. D sends his homeroom teacher a photo of the toilet seat, to which she forwards the image to D's mother, asking what to do. The messages were then leaked and went along the lines of, "Teacher says, 'Good evening, D broke the toilet seat. How is this going to be resolved?' Entitled mother says, 'Good evening, I'll wait until he gets home and explain what happened.' The teacher replies, 'I'll await the solution.' The entitled mother says, 'If the situation calls for it, I will come to the school tomorrow to settle this, but we're not paying for anything.' He said he didn't see the out of order sign on the door. The stall should have been locked. I do not consider this to be D's fault, rather the school's." The teacher says, "I think it's better if D owns up to his actions, accident or not. He broke the toilet seat, so either he or his parents will pay for it. What if everyone were to break school property and blame it on the school?" Entitled mother says, "He has nothing to own up to. It was the school's responsibility to close the stall," interjecting to say our school stalls had no locking mechanism, so there's no way to do that. "I'll be coming to the school tomorrow to settle this. I don't think children should own up to anything in these circumstances. I'm a woman who owns up to her mistakes. I don't think these conditions are safe for my child." Interjecting again, but just so it's clear, D was 14 when this happened. She showed up to school the next day. The details are unclear as I wasn't D's friend or classmate, so I heard anecdotal accounts from classmates who knew him. Apparently, entitled mothers still refused to pay the school for the damages. In my country, we have a behavior grade system where students get a point deducted for causing major problems or for having too many absences without a given reason. This grade is very important, as you could not be allowed into certain high schools or universities if it's anything below a 9. The texts resume the next day. The teacher says, "Good evening. Seeing as you chose not to pay for the damages caused by D, his behavior grade will be lowered, as per the school's rules." The entitled mother replies, "Good evening. That sounds like a threat, and I don't enjoy it. I'll come back to the school tomorrow to speak to the principal." The teacher says, "This is not a threat, but the consequences of the actions taken. If you wish to speak to the principal, you need to schedule an appointment." She did indeed show up again, demanding to speak to the principal and still refusing to pay. D did get his behavior grade lowered. Moral of the story, if your kid breaks something, don't blame it on his school. If there is a big sign slapped on the stall door that says "out of order," I think it's already their fault for going into the stall and using it, let alone the fact that can we acknowledge that the kid stood on the toilet? You're never supposed to just stand on a toilet regardless. So even if they knew it was out of order or not, I think the act of standing on the toilet alone makes the kid guilty, right? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another entitled parent story that was crazier than any of the ones in this video, click on that left video. Or if you missed my latest video, click on the right. But with that said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.